Let's adventure begin. With your best friend beside you. I got the lyrics wrong because I'm a fake fan. Hi, critters. It's me, your boy, Annie.
I'm Minty.
And this is FunUntitled, where we serve every podcast with an FU.
So we're gonna do 4 bonus episodes to go over Critical The Legend of Vox Machina, because this has been very highly anticipated, although we did not support the Kickstarter because we did not know anything about Critical. I personally still don't know much about it, but Annie knows half.
Yeah, that's right. It's censored ourselves. Shit ton. I know a shit ton.
You know shit, then you don't know shit.
This series got 1.2 billion views on Amazon first day.
1.2 billion?
Yeah.
Holy shit. How many? That's not that many people who has Amazon Prime.
Maybe it's all the piracies. So yeah, I'm Annie. I know most of Campaign 2 and all of Campaign 3, although at this point it just started. And I know osmosis, bits and tribits of Campaign 1. Fun fact, Vox Machina is a play on words of, I forget, voice machine, because they're all voice actors.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how they explain it in-game. I believe the name in the very first episode of like Fucked Shit Up Team, and then they changed it to be more brand safe.
Oh, very interesting.
I'm a giant quitter.
If giant you mean by fat, then yes, but not as in like you know everything that there has to be.
Minty knows some things from Campaign 2. They watched the last arc when they went to the snowy mountains, and they know all of Campaign 3.
Let's be clear, I don't know shit. You asked me what happened, I don't know shit.
You asked me
Did
who
someone
Molly
die?
is? I think that's a nice lady they met.
Did someone die? I don't know. Did someone come back to life? I don't know.
Wait,
How many
what?
characters are there? I don't know.
First things first, what do you think of the characters in Vox Machina? And then we'll get into the plot. So I'll go down the list, okay? So what do you think about the Ranger Vex?
And I will only base this specifically on what I saw in the TV show.
You don't know anything else.
I'm making this very clear because you're
Okay.
trying to sound like you're this great, like,
I am.
fan of Critical Role. And I'm like, you didn't see shit of Vox Machina. You didn't read any of the books yet. You know, we have some of them.
Ranger, acrobat.
She's only there to move the plot along, so she's very bland.
Alright, Rogue, Vax.
He hasn't done anything to piss me off or to impress me yet.
Alright, Druid, Keela.
She's the annoying hippie girl that you can't necessarily hate, but I will anyways.
Barbarian, Grog.
The stupid character who has some good jokes, but otherwise they're a bit overplayed.
Bard, Scanlan.
Sex is a cheap joke.
Cleric, Pike.
Useless character.
Fighter, Percy.
I don't care about your backstory because you never gave me a chance to give a shit about any of these characters.
Fair enough. So now for the real experts' opinional shares about these characters. Again, I knew very little going in, and
still knows very little.
still know very little. It's so hard because all these characters are supposed to be kind of one-dimensional, but if you ever see them be two-dimensional, that's just because that's the player's personality coming through. Like, you have Ashley Johnson's character, Pike, who's like, I'm the moral compass of the group. And then in episode 3, she's like, I like to get drunk a lot. And like, you know, these champagne glasses, they're shots. And you know, that's not really Pike's personality, that's Ashley's personality. So you kind of have to measure that too. Like, Vax is another good example. He's like an emo brooding boy, but at times he does joke around, and I feel like that's more Liam than Vax.
Interesting. I mean, everything's a bit screwed up, right? Because this is a D&D to podcast to TV show, so the translation from one media to another is really fucked up and did not translate very well. Which, you know, it would have been very hard to do anyways.
So I feel like all the characters, you know, like, they're okay. The only one that bothered me just a little was Keela. I don't really understand why they're giving her the storyline. She's the only really powerful magician, but her anxiety just gets in her way all the time.
It's interesting because Marisha, who I've only seen her play Bo and Ladna, are extremely different from Keela.
Oh yeah, some of the characters have great range, and I think Marisha Way is one of them.
So it's like, for your first character, it's interesting you went soft, and you went hardcore, and then you went weird. So it's interesting, of all the transitions, I mean, they kind of have like a flow, right? Marisha went wild.
Alright, so let's go into kind of like, what's your overall impact of the series? Your impressions?
Without the backing of Critical Role, if this was a standalone show, it is a mind-numbing, boring series that falls into the pit trap of no setup. That's the biggest part of this series, I think. No setup. I think a show has to have at least an episode of just who they are, what they do, and why we want to follow their journey. Because the first episode, the bar fight is pretty cool, sure, and funny, but kind of generic. generic for a fantasy show to have a bar fight. And I don't want to bring this up because Annie's very upset with me, but what are we doing if not getting upset at each other? Vox Machina just wants to be Castlevania.
Okay, for the last time, any adult mature cartoon is not Castlevania.
No, it's not. But
And you bring up the example of people getting killed by the dragons, but the person who designed all these characters is the same guy who designed Young Justice.
and he wished he did Castlevania. Which, okay, we've seen Young Justice. That show sucks. That show 100% sucks.
Oh man, all the Young Justices are on our shit.
Which I think you told me a long time ago, and I don't know if it's true, but the show was not cancelled because it sucked. It was because the show was supposed to be targeted to young boys. Young girls ended up liking the show, so they canceled the show because that wasn't the target audience, which is weird. It was wild. And then they made that high school girl one.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I believe it's terribly bad. That did not last very long.
I've seen so many clips from like adult cartoons of like Batman versus Robin and that kind of DC shit, right? So I'm very used to all this like bloody gore shit.
I just feel like the way it was artistically drawn was very Castlevania-like, and that you had a bar fight. I mean, I know it's this cliche, but that did happen in Castlevania. It's like the first thing they do.
That guy did want to fuck the goat in Castlevania. I thought there was too much swearing in this. Like, we didn't have to swear every single time and cut the tension with a swear word.
It was a little off-putting. I mean, because it makes it feel very immature. Surprisingly, right?
Like in episode 3, Percy does some batshit crazy stuff, and Vex goes, "Holy shit!" It's like, no. Let's say anything else.
Like, give to the conversation.
Like, you saying "holy shit" as a reactionary thing, right? Gives me nothing about your character. It's just the most generic thing. Like, an NPC from the side could have just said that.
Okay, but wait. Let's back up a little bit. For the overall show, do you think it's a good show?
I thought it was funny.
It has its moments of very good parts.
I don't think the first 3 episodes, right? Like I know it's unfair, but I don't think you can judge it on its storyline and plot of how well established it is in the first 3 episodes, because we know that the whole series plot is going to be Whitestone and the Briarwoods. So just doing this 2 one-off episodes just to learn about the characters, then I'm only gonna judge it on the characters. Because they said that. They said the first 2 episodes is just so people who don't know Critical Role can get used to the characters.
Wait, so are you telling me that the first 2 episodes is technically the setup?
Yes.
And then episode 3 is the start of the plot?
Yes.
Then this was a very bad setup.
Yeah. If you didn't know anything about D&D, I guarantee you would have had a hard time remembering anything. Like, you wouldn't understand the hippy dippy character, you wouldn't understand the healer.
Let's go into each episode, right?
Yeah.
The first episode, adding on to like kind of what you're saying, it was a lot of back and forth. A lot of back and forth between they're bad guys, they want to stay bad guys, they're gonna work for the king, they're gonna save the people, they're gonna back out, now they're back to saving the people. Like, you're not morally gray, you're not morally bad, you're not morally good. I don't know where you guys stand, and you're so wishy-washy. Like, Hyde brought up that they have to kill the dragon to help the people. You had to see it. Like, you're too stupid to like not see it. Like, you had to see the dead bodies for you to realize the dragon's killing people. Like, are you confused? Was it not told to you that this dragon's killing innocent people?
Well, when Daenerys from Game of Thrones was explaining it, Vax did shove her off, so maybe they didn't hear it.
No one ever listens to the mean lesbian. And this is one thing that really irritated me. Episode 1 ends with like them getting their ass kicked by the dragon. Then episodes 2 starts with like the dragon decimating the army. Why? Because I feel like you should have had the dragon kill the army to establish that the dragon is a strong enemy. Because you should not just assume that the dragon is like the most powerful being. That is an assumption you can make in D&D. That is not an assumption that you can make in any fantasy show.
In episode 1, they started off with a weird satire parody of Lord of the Rings, I think. They should have put the whole dragon killing the armies in episode 1.
Yeah. So it felt like a really useless scene, unless it's only to establish that, like, you know when you saw a general alive?
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't make sense. So it's like, did the general hide? Is he like a Zap Brannigan? I'm rewatching Futurama. So, but now it's like, oh, that makes sense. I thought he was a furry at first. Then it ended up being a dragon. So I guess you can't be a furry if you're actually a dragon.
It's kind of cool, but when you look back, like, oh yeah, I guess he did just kind of disappear during the battle.
Right? Like, it was weird, but then, like, that was fine. That was good. But I thought the ordering was wrong, right?
I feel like the problem with Critical Role, Legend of Vox Machina, is that the audience is for people who know D&D, I think. It's very hard if you don't know D&D and you're jumping into it.
It's more specific to it's only for Critical Role fans, which, to be honest, it's kind of fair. Because the people who, like, quote-unquote, funded this, right? And I always say quote-unquote because Amazon's also doing this too, and they're not necessarily supporters of this, but they just saw the popularity. It's really for them because they're not really advertising this like on TV or bill unless they are, and I don't know because Hawaii does not have billboards.
They do. There's billboards everywhere in California.
Really?
Yeah, like
Interesting.
it's like a Waldo game. Like, hey, find a billboard and take a picture of it. And, with yourself with it.
So clearly, it does feel like a show that's catered to the fans of Critical Role.
Yes.
But they really should have thought about the general audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no thought for the general audience. Because I will admit, though, I do kind of like that there's really no explanation of their powers. Because on one hand, it's like, well, what can't they do? But then on the other hand, it's like, what can't they do? If there's no setup, there's no limit. Because I thought it was very cool, like, that, like, Vex could, like, turn his belt into a snake.
Vex.
Damn it. So, now I feel like RuPaul drag is, and I don't know how to drag queen.
But yeah, he has a belt that turns into a snake, and his name is Simon.
Right, like, I don't know what the rules are, but I'm kind of okay with the lack of structure in terms of the powers.
What I find weird...
Except Pike, but go on.
No, fun fact about Pike, the show is giving her original storyline that she kind of has like an out-of-touch feel with healing, and I think that to explain in real life, Ashley wasn't here for most of the arc. And another fun fact is that all the other players had to learn healing spells because Pike was gone so often, but people think that like Scanlan's not going to know healing word because we need Pike to do something now. So
Who else can heal? Keela?
Druid, Ranger, and Bard can heal, and then later on Vax can heal as a paladin, but he's not going to be a paladin this arc.
A ranger can heal?
Yes.
Never knew that.
The stories I could tell about Ranger not healing.
She sticks a body underneath Trinket and they suckle his nipple.
So yeah, episode 1, like, the animation is gorgeous. The dragon is weird.
3D never works with 2D unless you like Code Lyoko it.
Code Lyoko.
Make it very specific that there is a specific 3D moment, but it doesn't work. For the first 2 episodes, they're garbage. But I will admit, to judge a whole series on the first 3, unfair. So that's why I really just base it episode on episode. 3rd episode, getting to the part of Lord
Silas and Delilah.
and Delilah Briarwood going over Percy's past.
I will say, the whole Percy wearing the Raven mask makes no sense. The whole smoke coming out from him makes no sense. He really didn't do anything in episode 1 and 2 to make you care about him, like you
See,
said.
that's what I was gonna say. If this is his plot, right? This is his arc. Why did they not make him seem like the leader of the group? Why not make him seem more important in the series?
My game theory is that they knew how important he was going to be in the next episodes, like the rest of the 9 episodes, so they gave him a smaller part in episode 1 to 3.
Again, part of the show has to be spoken to the general audience. Really not doing that.
I wish they answered Keela's question in episode 1. Why are they together? They just kind of shrugged it off.
Well, what didn't they shrug off? Okay, and was it a little weird? I don't understand how Vex knew about the neck thing and bringing the dragon down.
Vax knew about that because
God damn it.
Gilmore had a book that was like a riddle of how to slay the dragons, and it's where the 2 rivers meet. And he's like, Gilmore's like, I don't know what that means, and Vax like, I know what it means. It's the veins.
So then when the dragon was on the ground, then Grog could split its head open. Now did that make sense?
I don't
Like Grog couldn't just rage from the beginning and do that?
Grog did say, I can't do anything because he's always in the air.
But he wasn't. The dragon was not always in the air.
I don't remember. I only remember that scene where they all teamed up to take it down.
Which, okay, this series likes to have good animation points and bad animation point. Why was that fight not a good animation point? It was okay. It wasn't the... It's just, I feel like for like, tone down all the rest of the scenes to bring that scene up. Because action scenes should be fast.
I thought Keela did the divine thing too many times.
I am confused on what a druid can do now. Because I thought they transformed into animals. But now I'm learning that they can control plants more than they can animals.
She turned into a bird one time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And the opening, she was a tiger.
Lynx.
What is her circle?
Tempest. I don't know.
Fat critical fan. Fat.
And with that, we'll wait for the next 3 episodes. Because as if everyone isn't talking about how this is the biggest thing in animation right now.
Is it the best thing, but?
Find out.